All right, hello everybody. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for the Masters in Clinical Mental Health Counseling virtual information session. My name is Tom Crash. I'm our Director of Graduate Admissions here at Commonwealth University, and I will be your host tonight. Appreciate everybody taking time out of their busy schedule to join us. There's a number of other things you could be doing right now, so whether you're watching live or you're watching the recording, certainly appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to learn more about the program. I think tonight will be a great opportunity for you to learn more and help preview your experience in our master's program. The event should take probably between 30 and 45 minutes. We have some slides that we'll be running through that will help highlight the program, and then we'll be opening it up to a Q&A afterwards. The event is being recorded and should be posted a couple days after we're done with this event tonight. But before we go any further, if our panelists wouldn't mind introducing themselves, and we can start with Dr. Romero Lucero.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Romero Lucero, or Dr. Al for short. I am the program director, and I've been with the program since June of 2018. And I became the program director December 11th of 2023. So I'm closing up close to my 1 year as program director. And I think that, as I was saying earlier before the recording started, I am one of our remote faculty, and I live in Albuquerque, Mexico.
And what's your area of research, Dr. Romero Lucero?
My area of research is supervisor development and training, and online learning, and most recently, the effects of grief and loss for kinship caregivers.
Interesting. Great. Thank you. Dr. Tomlin.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Dr. Liz Tomlin, she, her, hers. I am joining you from the region of upstate New York, in the Finger Lakes area, just outside of Ithaca. Let's see, I'm in the top of my 4th year here at the Commonwealth. And do some work interest presenting scholarly work around and consulting around gender affirming care, work with LGBTQ plus and queer communities, and have recently in the last couple of years gotten into some work around mentorship and increasing a sense of belonging.
Excellent. Thank you. Dr. Gitonga.
Hello, everybody. My name is Dr. Stephen Gitonga, and I have been at in this program since January the 9th, 2016. I am currently in the Finger Lakes region around Cortland. It's not very far from Syracuse, New York. I've been able to teach several courses, in fact, almost all the classes in the program. But my research interest revolves around immigration issues in counseling, and diversity issues in counseling, as well as clinical supervision.
Great, thank you. And Dr. Pytel.
Hi, I'm Kelly Pytel. I've been with the program in a teaching capacity since 2019. I was also a student from this very program at one point, so I can speak from the student perspective as well. I am the Practicum and Internship Coordinator, so once we get to those slides, I'll be talking about our clinical portion of the program. I am currently in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, so not too far from our Lock Haven campus. And my research areas are about increasing the effectiveness of working with diverse populations and groups. So the military, grief and loss, are just a couple of examples.
Thank you. Dr. DePalmer.
Welcome, everyone. I am Dr. Stephanie DePalmer, and I am the newest member to the faculty, just starting this fall. So if you don't hear me say much in the Q&A, it's because I'm going to leave it to the experts. But it's not my first year in counselor education. I've been teaching since 2019. Research interests, anything children and adolescents, anything trauma, anything involving visibility for marginalized communities, and just really love collaborating. So I'm interested in raising student voice when it comes to what are you interested in and how can I support you in understanding how you turn your interests into being not only a consumer of professional development, but a distributor. And so really finding my way here, and I can tell you with certainty, it's a wonderful program and I'm very happy here. So I'm excited to share with you tonight.
Thank you. And Eric.
Yeah, so my name is Eric Swick. I'm a student in the program. In my last year, I've been in the program part-time since I think 2022, if I remember correctly. Currently at my practicum site, finishing out my last class of non-internship related work. So that's exciting for me. And I'm also the director of the mentor program here. And I'm reporting to you live from Westchester, Pennsylvania. So happy to answer any questions prospective students might have about the program from the student side.
That's great. Thank you, Eric. Dr. Romero-Lucero, did you want to kick off the presentation?
Yes. So this is our most recent graduation picture from the spring of this spring 24. So as you'll see some of us that are here today. There's Dr. Katanga in the front. I'm over here somewhere on the side. Dr. Tomlin is over here somewhere.
We're both on the right side, behind and in front of each other.
Okay. I can't see because all these boxes are in the way. But there are some faculty that aren't here. Dr. Vincent, Dr. Weaver. But this was our class. We were excited. So this was my first time going to graduation. So that was exciting. But this is just a really great representation of the kind of community that we create, despite being that it is an online program. So this was really exciting to see. Oh, and there's Dr. Paycheck. She's right there. There's, it's really exciting to see everybody come together after being in the little box on Zoom for 3 years or whatever in class. So why our program or clinical mental health counseling? So as you've probably seen in some other stuff, or if you're looking at programs, our program is accredited, and I'm going to be getting ahead of myself on the next slide, but we are accredited by CACRIP. We do offer a path to licensure, and we do offer some tracks that we'll go over that you can specialize during your time with us, and some certificates. So we're going to get into why our program. I think for me, I asked everybody if they would share their favorite part of the program at this slide. And I think for me, is this sense of community that we have, despite even not only with students, but even as faculty, we know about each other and engage with each other outside of work, and try to create that relationship outside of the classroom and meetings and all that kind of stuff, to have that personal connection. So I don't know if any of the other panelists want to share what they find the best about our program.
I think you said it nicely, Lee, in terms of the relationships that we have with our students is, I'm going to use the word unparalleled, because I feel that is really true. And being a remote program, yes, there is this sense that there can be isolation. And while I think that can be true, there's the flip side of that, where we also can kind of access each other even more. And I think that we do, for those of us who have taught in an on campus setting, we have a lot more interaction with our students in this landscape. I know that I do. And so we're able to work with people outside of class a lot, engage with them in scholarly endeavors and research and other, like Dr. DePalmer said, things that they are passionate about and have interest in wanting to do something with. And we want to help them do that.
And as the picture shows, this is a moment to celebrate your achievement at the end of the program. Students usually tease me to do something on graduation day. And I believe this time here I was doing some trick. I don't remember what trick it was. It may have been some dance.
You were dancing, Stephen. I remember you were dancing.
Yes, yes. So and we always promise students that we will shake your hand at one time or other, especially on the graduation day. In other situations, we shake students' hands when we co-present with them at conferences, like the Pennsylvania Counseling Association conference. Thank you.
Like I would also say that from the student side, kind of echoing Dr. Tomlin, like one of the best parts of the program is I've been in a graduate program before. It was in person and have a bachelor's degree all in person. I have a closer relationship with my professors now than I have throughout both those degrees. So there was never a time in this program where if I needed extra help outside of class or to touch base after class where it was ever a no. If anything, it was more giving than I expected. And there's so many opportunities where professors are like, hey, if you want to work with me at the conference or any other conference, that was always encouraged. If not, even just a professor saying, hey, I noticed you're interested in this. Let's get something together. So I always thought that was really great, kind of bringing you in as a peer in this professional space.
I think what supports the things that you're hearing is the design of the program, which Dr. Romero-Lucero will probably talk about. So it truly is the experience. And like, I feel like I'm like the new student, but the faculty version. And I'm getting the experience of texts from my colleagues, just online education is an art. And I don't know that everybody can do it, but they've nailed it here. They're efficient, they're effective, and I think we recognize that you're grad students with full lives, and so we want to honor that by making sure the work we do is not busy work. It all matters, and it is about we do it through the lens of connection.
Thanks, everybody, for sharing. So our program overview. So as I said, we are CACREP accredited. Many states require that students graduate from a CACREP accredited school to become licensed. With the federal regulation that came down starting July 1st of this year, online programs have to show that they meet state licensing requirements before they accept a student into the program. And so I worked on that over the summer. And I'm happy to say that we met all but one state licensing requirement out of the 50 states. And it was simply because they just require more supervision hours than you get in the practicum and internship class. So it had nothing to do with our courses or any of the curriculum like that. So that was exciting to see. It is delivered 100% online, meaning that you don't ever have to go to Lock Haven until it's time for graduation, like Dr. Katanga said. We do have 80% of our courses have a synchronous component, meaning they have a live Zoom meeting requirement during the semester. Most of those are every other week, whether it's odd weeks, so week 1, 3, 5, 7, and so on and so forth, or even weeks 2, 4, 6, 8, and so on. And that is listed on the schedule when you're registering for classes, so you know what to expect and when to show up to class. And then the asynchronous classes, we sprinkle those in each semester to try to provide students with a balance of not having a synchronous class for all. So if you take 3 classes, as you see here on the flexible piece, it's full-time as 3 classes every semester. So for those 3 classes, we try to have at least 1 class that's an asynchronous option, so that you're only having class for 2, synchronous for 2 classes with that flexibility. We do offer a lot of classes that are staggered. And what I mean by that is if you have a theories class and the orientation class, usually those are offered on the same day and one is 5 to 6:30 and the other one is 7 to 8:30, so that you only have class one night a week, because we understand, like Dr. DePalmer said, we understand everybody's busy and you have families and all these other things that you have going on, so we try to be as accommodating as we can. Of course, our program is getting bigger and bigger, so sometimes students don't always get the section of the class that they want, but we try our best to support students in getting the sections that they need, whether it's, work related or family related. And over the last year or so, we just started offering some morning classes, but those are mostly the practicum and internship classes, based on feedback that we received from a student survey that was done last fall, because students were able to go to class and then head right into their practicum or internship site. Because when we offer it in the evening, a lot of students were missing out on clinical hours because they had to stop and attend class. So we do have that modification, but again, we offer class in both evening and morning, so whatever works better for your schedule. So again, full-time is 3 classes and it takes about 2.5 to 3 years, if all goes right, if you attend every semester and all those things. Part-time takes 3.5 to 4 years, and that's 2 classes, fall, spring, and summer. And we do have a 6-year completion policy total. So if you do have to take time off, as long as it's within that 6-year time period, there is no issues with that. However, if there's time that comes where you do have to take time off, we work with you as your advisor and the program director to make sure that you're, getting all that you need, the support that you need to come back and finish and complete your program. We do take students from any background major for the bachelor's level. We don't really have a requirement. We do ask about mental health, like previous mental health experience, but that's just more of it's not required. It's just something that we ask about during the interview process. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I missed regarding program overview.
And I have a quick question for the group. So for students that might not come from a bachelor's degree in psychology or social work or sociology or in a behavioral subject, what is their transition like into the program? If they were a business major, they were a history major, education, what is the typical onboarding process like for students?
I think
Acclimating.
Yeah, I think the biggest adjustment would probably be the focus on practical application of skills, compared to just the academic piece of it. And that is important. But like Dr. DePalmer said also in what she said about the program that she likes is, we try really hard to make every assignment applicable to their learning as a counselor in training. And so I think sometimes even if you do have a background in counseling or psychology or whatever, what we've seen, and I know like Dr. Tomlin and has taught the skills class several times over the last few semesters, specifically 525, our basic skills class. And I think the number one thing that you see, and Dr. Katanga can talk about this as an advisor, one of the things, even with students who do have that background, they struggle when they enter that class because it's not just about getting the A, right? It's about knowing how to demonstrate the skills in a efficient manner, in a way that I can see that what you're doing so that you can pass the class. And it's not so much about the written assignments but it's more about that practical application. And I think a lot of students struggle with that. Like Eric said, we offer lots of outside stuff. There's extra practice if you need to. that kind of thing. So I think for someone who doesn't have that background, it's probably just the change in topic and the subject that you're working on to include that practical application of the skills.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, we treat counseling, mental health counseling, as a new language. So everybody coming in, they are almost at equal level in terms of learning this new language.
Mm-hmm.
And we ease them from the basics, the very basics at the beginning of the program to the specifics towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
That said, we don't require anything different from students that come from a different background. So if you came from crime, law, and justice, we don't require any introductory courses or additional work. It's all the same.
Yeah, and in fact, if we go to the next slide, maybe if we're done here, the we actually really welcome students that are coming from interdisciplinary areas. They will often bring so much more wisdom and kind of a depth into what we're looking at and studying. Like Dr. Gatanga says, we're all kind of learning this new language together. And so having different perspectives and lived experiences is a pretty beautiful thing. So these are some examples of classes that students will take, from theories to doing group work, some specific classes in career, trauma, addiction. We do, of course, have a class in multicultural counseling. However, we embed this kind of lens of cultural humility and inclusion and social justice in really all of our classes. This is something we do with intentionality and really look at each time the class is offered, how we imbue this more because things change, right? And so, like Dr. L said, we do set folks up, generally speaking, for licensure. Certainly some states have different criteria, so we ask that students really look at that for themselves and ask us if they have questions about that, how that aligns. But we have a couple of different tracks, which is where those electives come in, and which I think Dr. Gatanga will speak about in a moment. But then we also have courses where we're doing the work in real time. So that could be practicing clinical work with your peers, your classmates, your colleagues, and doing that with real volunteer clients prior to going into your practicum in your internship. I also think it's worthy to say that while we are doing coursework, typically Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in the evenings, we also offer kind of programming and student-led initiatives outside of the classroom for students to be involved in, which really does enhance our sense of belonging. And so this is our CMHC club, which is a monthly meeting. You can meet folks outside of your cohort. We also have a group called the Culture Collective, where we host a speaker to come in and discuss an area around social justice or a particular issue in maybe a community that has been historically censured. We also have Eric, our wonderful student here, mentioned the mentoring program, and that's where our students coming into the program are paired with a student who's been here at least, I think it's at least a year. So they've got somebody informal to kind of lean on and to have that dialogue with, that maybe they wouldn't feel comfortable doing that with a faculty member. Oh, I'm realizing, Tom, as I'm hitting next on the slides, that it's not mine to hit next to. Why won't it go?
It's mine.
All right. Now, one of the things that stands out for our program compared to many other programs is the uniqueness in what we offer. So in addition to the general track and the courses that are taken by everybody in the general track, there is a child and adolescent track. So you get to take 2 classes which focus mainly on working with children and adolescents. Now, for those who would like to work with the military and veterans and their families, there is a track for that, where you get to take 2 additional classes, and then you get in your transcript, it will say that you you are graduating with the clinical mental health counseling degree, in addition to the military veterans and their families track, and likewise for the counseling children and adolescents. So we also do offer certificates. These are not degrees, they are certificates in telemental health. We realize that our world is changing and we are communicating more online nowadays, including counseling is going telemental health. So there is a certificate for those who would like to do their work through telemental health. Then there is the Foundations of Trauma-Informed Care certificate and the Trauma-Informed Counseling certificate. In addition, lastly, there is the Military Resilience and Trauma Counseling. So those certificates add what some students have said, an edge over other programs. So when you graduate, in terms of job employment, you have an edge over the other applicants applying for the same position, I would say.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Katonga. And I just wanted to add, the certificates are extra in addition to the 60 credits. However, we do offer them. The scheduling is so that you can do them while you're taking other classes. So we do offer some of these during the summer, along with some of our other electives, which are these ones up here, the track classes. And we also offer some during the winter session, which is the 5 or 6 weeks between fall and spring semester. And that would be something that once you're in the program, this you have to pick when you sign up, when you apply the track. But once you get in, then when you meet with your advisor, they can help you walk through on how to get added to any of these certificates, added to your program of study, if that's something that you're interested in. And Dr. Pytel will talk about this in a little bit, but just so I don't forget, if we highly recommend that all students take the telemental health class, because for practicum and internship, if you have a site that has the telemental health portion, you have to have the class or something equivalent to it in order to qualify for a telehealth site placement. And she'll talk more about specifics in that when we get to that slide. These are all just available to you as part of once you're in the program, or you can come back after you graduate and take them then. But there is an opportunity to do it while you're active in the program. I don't know, Eric, are you taking any of these certificates, or have you?
I took telemental health, yeah, and that was very helpful because I guess in the post-COVID world, I mean, I have 2 physical locations for my practicum site that I could be at, and still, even now, clients prefer telemental like half the time.
Yeah.
So knowing how to manage that scenario is just, to me, it almost seems essential at this point, because, and even sometimes I have clients that are traveling where now it's like they don't want to miss a week. So yeah, I would definitely recommend that. I haven't taken the other ones, but I mean, I definitely, even though I'm general track, the military course and the child and adolescent courses I had were some of the most, interesting, because just expanding my background, and those are two areas where I learned like how much of a need there are. So those were very helpful, especially for priming myself for diverse clients, especially with practicum and internship. You're probably not going to get to always work with your desired like a track, so it helps to have a diverse background, especially when applying.
And that's
Yeah.
and I'm sorry for interrupting, Eric, you're
Oh, go ahead.
where you have a lot of clients that would prefer telemental health like that. That also is a nice tie into the way that the courses are delivered. Like the course delivery is actually good preparation for a future career in the way some health services are going to be delivered.
Yes. Every time I click on my screen, the thing shifts. Sorry. I've changed that. All right, now we'll hear from Dr. Paitel.
So at the end of your program, you'll be expected to do practicum and internship. Practicum is 100 hours, and that will either occur in the summer or fall semester, usually of your last year. And then internship is offered fall, winter, and spring. So you have some option. Practicum is one course. You have to get 100 hours, 40 of those have to be with direct clients. And we make that distinction. And if you have questions about that, I can elaborate. But in the interest of time, I'm going to give kind of the brief overview of our experience. And then internship is 600 hours, 240 of those have to be with direct one-on-one with clients. Internship, there's a little more flexibility. So if you're thinking about work-life balance, you can take that one semester. So you can do full-time internship, all 6 credits, one semester. You can do part-time, which would be 3 credits one semester, 3 credits another. Some of our students are even taking it 3 times. So yes, they're taking an extra course, but that allows them for continuity of care when we think of clients, and also just to be able to spread out those hours over time. Students find their own sites. So we do have Tavera that we use. It's an online platform that allows students to go in and look and see previous placements that we've had students and we have agreements with, which sometimes makes it a little bit easier to be placed in the future. But if you are not finding something that's either your area of interest or in your local area, you can find something on your own that's going to be a good fit. So if you have an interest in working in private practice or in a hospital setting or in corrections, there's a lot of different places that you'll see on the next slide that we're at, but it really is up to you to find a good fit. So just a couple of placements. These names probably don't mean a lot to you if you're not local. But as I mentioned before, you can work in, so A Journey to You, that's private practice. Penn State Psychological Clinic, that's more college counseling setting. UPMC is more hospital setting. And then the Lock Haven Counseling Center is again working more in the college counseling arena.
I was trying to answer the question in the chat around the person that's out of the country. So sorry, I was distracted.
I could talk a little bit, Lee, if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, clinical mental health counselors are in so many places. They're really in a huge demand right now, arguably perhaps more than ever. And so there are a lot of places. This is really just kind of dipping your hand into the pot and grabbing a couple. There are many spots that one might find themselves if they were looking to say, what can I do with this degree? What am I going to do afterwards? We even have folks that, let's say, maybe they at some point say, I don't even know if I want to do counseling forever, but I do want to have a higher degree. I do want to have some training in this clinical language and talking to people, really hearing their stories. And so I know I want to work in the nonprofit sector, and I'd really like to be in a position of leadership at some point. We have those students too. So right, we have folks that work with veterans in hospitals, in crisis settings, in college campuses, which is, I'm biased. That's what I've been doing the last decade before becoming an educator full-time. Private practice, working in correctional settings, nonprofits, mental health agencies, substance use and recovery centers, working at folks dealing with intimate partner violence and sexual violence. So there are a lot of career options that folks can take into account. And I think too, with social media, people are really finding many different and creative ways that I might not have had at this juncture in my career, going into a master's program, to kind of synthesize some different aspects of a career. So there are a lot of different options out there.
I'll also just add, we've had a nice trend in students that have gone into research and even higher degrees.
Doc programs, absolutely, yep.
And doc programs coming from our program and have been very well prepared and successful. And that speaks back to us working with our students so directly and mentoring them in research, which is a really unique piece of our program.
Yes.
So as you look at the students that pursue a certificate or a concentration in one of the subject matter areas, are they typically able to find careers then or jobs in those areas when they graduate?
I think so. I mean, I think from what Dr. Gatonga was speaking to, I think it shows, from an employer to an employer that you do have that extra training or, knowledge around that specific population. I think the certificates probably help even more because, you have to take, it's 3 more classes that you have to take for like the military veteran, for instance. So like it's a little bit more showing to a potential employer that you've, that you've taken the time to do that and get more knowledge and skill around those particular populations.
We had a question in here about further degrees. So we have students sometimes that choose to go and get their doctorate, for example, so their PhD. So we'll get into some career counseling here, but we have a couple of students now that have graduated that are getting degrees in what most of us here have, which is a PhD in counselor education and supervision. So to be able to then go and teach in a graduate counseling program. We also have folks that sometimes it's maybe a little less common, but sometimes go into higher degrees that might be within counseling psychology, clinical psychology. So that would either be a PhD or a PsyD. And then certainly folks who might go something a little bit differently and say like getting a PhD in something like maybe educational leadership or something to that effect. So while our program is training practitioners first, we do utilize a practitioner scholar model so that as we've talked about, when students do have interests in research or in presenting on some area at a conference, again, not through publication or anything, but through disseminating that in a conference setting to other professionals, that we work with them and mentor them. And so I'm thinking of one student now in particular who I presented with twice while they were a student with us and is now graduated and in a doc program. And I am presenting with them again coming up, different relationship now, but we're continuing to work together in that research agenda. So I hope that answered some questions about further degree.
There's another question about if the program has a LinkedIn page. The answer is no, right?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but I just didn't want to say it, and then you guys had created that. We do
There
have
are-
a Facebook page though.
There are a lot of accomplished professionals that graduate from the program. The LinkedIn page might be a good idea, though. I appreciate the suggestion.
Yes. Definitely might is something to think about. Thank you. So to go on to what Dr. Tomlin said, this is some of the areas where or some of the settings that our current or most recent alumni have been employed at after graduating. So as you see, they pretty much mirror the previous slide of variety and availability of resources. We all know, like Dr. Tomlin said, that there is not a lack of need for positions. Obviously, depending on where you live, there might not be as many job openings, but that would be something to think about. You know, we do have and we do, you know, keep track of, we try to keep in contact with our alumni to see what's going on so that we can identify any trends and things like that maybe we're missing. And that's like where like some of the certificates, the ideas for the certificates came from areas where employers were saying, well, we feel like they need to be more trained in X or Y or Z. And so we add those as opportunities for students to engage in those. So this pretty much speaks to what we just said, right? But it just gives us a number, a percentage. So as somebody who graduates with a CMHC degree that is license eligible, depending on what state you're in, you know, but most states is like you get it and then it's 2 years and then you get the independent license or ability to practice without supervision. Sorry, my dogs are seeing the walkers in front of my house. So it's about a 23% projected growth from 2020 to 2030, which is much faster than the average for all occupations. So we do have, you know, that going for us, I think. As far as, you know, we're in high demand. So we as a program really want to make sure that you get the high quality education and experience so that you can go and get that job that you want after graduation. So this is the application process. It is an online application. You do have to provide college transcripts and tell me if I'm saying it right, Tom. If they are a CU student undergrad, they don't need to submit them, right?
That's correct. Yes.
We can get them. Yep. But if you are not an undergrad from CU, then you would need to supply those. We do not require the GRE. We do have a minimum 3.0 GPA. We used to not have that, but we had to make a change because our program is in such high demand. So we had to make that change. So if you had heard from somebody else, that is a recent change. I know that was a question in the chat. We do require 3 letters of professional recommendation. The variety of them is best. And what I mean by that is if you could get one from like a previous professor, an employer, maybe, you know, somebody that, so I mean, obviously we'll take whatever, but 3 from faculty. We look at the diversity of the letters of recommendation when we're rating applicants. You do have to provide a statement of professional goals, and on the website there is like some things that you'd want to include in there. That, you know, kind of some bullet points for you to include in that statement of professional goals. And then once you submit all that, and as long as all of these things are met, then you are invited for an interview with faculty. And we do have both an individual interview and a group interview. The individual, you are with one of us as faculty for 30 minutes. It's an hour total. You have questions, you get to and ask any questions you have about the program, and then you're placed into a group, into a breakout room with the group, the rest of the applicants that are interviewing at the same time as you. And it is similar to what the synchronous class experience is like, with questions that you're being asked, but it is about seeing how you interact with others and peers and, you know, things like that. And then it's usually around a week or two by the time you're grad admissions, we work with them. I submit our decisions, then they email you and say, yes, you've been accepted, or no, you haven't. And then if you have been accepted, there is a 2-week window for acceptance. And if you miss the 2 weeks, then you're closed and would have to reapply. And I think we're currently accepting applications for the summer of 25. We extended we were supposed to have the deadline be October 15th, but we extended it by 1 month. So it is now November 15th. So if you have not decided and you are interested, we are still accepting applications at this time to offer, and then interviews for that would be sometime in early spring.
And while we're on the subject, we have some really good questions about the application and admission process here. Essentially the level of competition to gain admission. I know from an admissions perspective, we'll gain far more applications versus what we have room for. Most years, typically, Dr. Romero Lucero, you're looking for around 25 students per cohort, 25 for summer, 25 for spring, and 25 for the fall. Can you speak a little bit about the level of competition to gain admission?
Yes, so our cohorts are 25 students. And we do accept a cohort every semester, so fall, spring, and summer. We accept 25. Our cohort is 25. We interview probably around 45 to 60, depending on the number of applicants. And we accept about 35 of those. So we have 25 that are accepted, and then about 10 on the wait list. And that is because if something happens, and, you know, let's use Eric as an example, he accepts his seat for the summer, and then something in his life happens and he says, well, I actually can't start until, can I defer? And you can defer your acceptance by 1 semester. So if he wants to defer till fall of 25, then they ask me and I say yes, and then we would pull somebody off the wait list to take, so that the cohort always starts at 25. Because things happen, we usually tend to take between, 4 to 6 students or applicants off of the wait list, because, like I said. So we do have small class sizes, and that is because of CACREP. Like our clinical classes and skills classes have to be capped at 12. But then that just means we offer more sections of those classes if we have however many students. And then our other classes, our content courses, what I like to call them, are about, they're capped at 20. Except the first 2 classes of the program, because everybody takes those, and we take 25 students, so we cap that at 25, so that our department chair is not running.
Yeah, and the level of competition to gain admission to me speaks to a couple different things. How in demand, graduates from these programs are. Mental health is a huge subject, and rightfully so, and only will continue to be important, in the coming years. It also speaks to the reputation of the program, and by all means, don't take my word for it. And shame on me for not putting this in the presentation, but the program was ranked as the most outstanding counselor education program, according to the Pennsylvania Counseling Association, the 55th annual conference in Harrisburg. So again, you're probably expecting me to say, hey, no, it's really good. In this case, you don't have to take my my word for it. The program that our faculty have built here is as good as you will find anywhere. So they've done just a tremendous job. Those are tremendous questions about the application process. Thank you for that. Let's see. When does an applicant get an invitation to an interview? Would it be after the application, or after they've completed the application process? But meaning, did they submit all the required materials?
Yeah, so once the application the deadline passes, and grad admissions reviews all of that. If your application is completed, meaning it has all of these things included, then you are invited for an interview. And then I see the applications for the summer. We don't have our fall portal open yet for applications. So that will happen once the summer application deadline has passed. So we are not currently taking for fall yet, but that will be up on the website soon.
Great questions. Please keep them coming. Keep them coming. And then I believe Dr. Romero Lucero, that wraps up the presentation part. So we will be transitioning into the Q&A, and we're going to continue to record this primarily because a lot of the questions that you may be wondering, you're certainly not going to be the only people who are going to be asking the same questions. We want to make sure that this gets out there for additional use as well. So are there any questions from the audience as we continue to talk about the program? And I know I have a question as other people are thinking of theirs for Eric, our resident student here on the panel. Eric, what has been your favorite class to take in this program so far? I know I want to say it's around 60 credits, right? So you've taken quite a few. If you had to pick one, what would you say your favorite has been?
No pressure, Eric.
I was going to say, you have all your faculty here, like all waiting for the answer here.
I think just being in the practicum realm now, this would feel like a hot take a year ago because we were all scared about it. But the skills courses ended up being my favorite because that was where I learned the most. Like I applied things in a practical manner, and I got constructive criticism, and I feel like I was able to put pen to paper in a way and like grow, just grow and like almost felt like leaps and bounds from like the start of the semester to the end. So those were my favorite courses in terms of like a practical. It's really hard to pick because I've had courses with so many of the professors here, and I like Hitanga's trauma course that I'm in right now, and I like Tomlin's multicultural course. I will say that I never disliked a course, and I always feel like I got a lot out of it. But I like the skills ones a lot. I thought multicultural was really challenging, and I like to kind of push myself to think about other perspectives, not like challenging in a way of like, this feels wrong to me, but it's, you humble yourself as like a white male, and you learn about other perspectives. And this is important when you have clients from all sorts of backgrounds. So that was really helpful. And that was something that, I don't have a lot of opportunities to learn. But even like when I started the theory course, now I could just go on forever. Like that was great. And like building my professional identity and seeing what I wanted to work with. So yeah, it's really hard to pick, but they were all of the courses are really, you get a lot out of them. It seems like a lot of courses when you look at it from the starting line, like how many courses I have to take to get all these credits, but every course felt like this was essential information.
No, thank you, Eric. I appreciate that. And very, very diplomatic, might I add, too. That was really threaded the needle there. Well done.
Why do you think I was asked to be here, right?
Yeah, that is true, right? I recognize I put you in a really tough situation. You stuck the landing, though. So we're getting some questions about cost and financial aid. And so let me just address the cost factor first. So cost is important. I mean, same as it was when you're pursuing your bachelor's degree, you should be looking at this as an investment in your future career. So a couple things before we even get to what it actually costs, right, is we talked about, 100% employment rate. We talked about the demand and what it looks like moving forward. So right off the bat, you're looking at a really good ROI on this degree. And I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. For those students that live in Pennsylvania, obviously, we'll be charging Pennsylvania costs. Even for students that live outside of Pennsylvania, what I think what you will find is our out-of-state cost will be very competitive compared to the in-state public institutions or even private colleges anywhere else. So I think part of the reason why there is some popularity for our program is because the value that's inherent in the program. I know we have a lot of details on costs on the website. In fact, one of the tools we have is called a cost calculator, and it will allow you to kind of approximate the cost of what you might be looking at for your degree. So that's where we would go with cost. So we do offer conventional financial aid packages. I would say that when you're a prospective graduate student, it's not often that there's scholarships for grad students. Not that there's never, but it would be unlikely. Most of the financial aid outside of like a loan would come through the form of graduate assistantships, which we do have. I would say a majority of them are probably going to be located in one of our Commonwealth campuses, but there are some that are remote. Do we have any GA positions in the clinical mental health counseling program?
We have one.
Okay.
It's currently filled. I
Mhm.
did request for, I'm always requesting for two. But yes, there is one for sure.
Mhm. And there, again, there are a number of GA positions available across our campuses. And again, we do have some online. We have an entire graduate assistantship website that's just, it's a job board, right, with all the listed GA. And I probably should have explained what a GA is. A GA is an acronym for graduate assistant. And essentially that means you're a part-time employee essentially of the university. And you would work anywhere between 5 and 20 hours per week, depending on your GA. And then in return, we would pay for part of your tuition and fees, and you'd also get a stipend. So that is something that can also help offset the cost. But those are great questions.
I had a question for Eric, but he might be
Oh, yeah.
typing.
I can
Yeah,
take it though, because I was just thinking about, so Mackenzie was asking about like relationships between students. And I think one of the benefits, so when we're talking about the small cohort size, you have a lot of classes with the same people, and that was my experience. So as you're growing and learning what it is to be a counselor throughout this program, I have many names I could fire off here of just people I was in class with and I still am in class with that you can empathize and discuss throughout. And there's a lot of opportunities for group work. Like some people don't love group work, but it's a great opportunity here to, I mean, that is how this job works. You're going to be talking with your cohort and like troubleshooting cases. So made a lot of, good friends through that in the program because, you have a lot of opportunities in the class and people are pretty eager because we're all in the program together. People are very eager to be like, let's set up chats outside of this to talk about a class or just keep in touch. So I think taking that step to reach out to people, if someone says something in class, like, hey, I thought that was really interesting. And like, I'd like to talk to you more about that, or working on projects together and keeping those relationships going. I've several people that I've met like in the program that I would like, I'm thinking about it like even networking wise, like I would love to work with them later. So there's definitely an opportunity to make good like professional and friendships in the program, especially because you have so many courses with the same people. You start to, I don't know, it's a little family with these classes.
And Dr. Tomlin, earlier in the presentation, you had mentioned that there is a organization that's connected to the group. And I think one of the things that's really interesting is, like the social fabric of the program seems to be stitched together very strongly. Can you talk more about the organization and how that helps kind of build a culture or a community within the program?
So Tom, you referring to some of our student-led initiatives and clubs that we have outside of classes?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So our CMHC club is a monthly meeting where folks from all the cohorts, all levels of the program, very first semester, very last semester, come, and there are a variety of things that they do. So Kelly is Dr. Pytel is one of the co-advisors of the CMHC club, and correct me if I'm wrong, but their last meeting, which was last Monday, they did like some Halloween trivia, and then they also talked about like some of kind of the psychopathology that goes into folks who really like horror movies, which I was really struck by because I am a horror movie buff. And so I had students emailing and being like, this is this. And I'm like, oh, wow. So that's my category. And then sometimes the CMHC Club will host really wonderful guest speakers to come in and talk about different clinical topics. The Culture Collective is a group that is led by students. And so we invite a speaker to come in every month, and we also offer a continuing education credit for that. So our last speaker that came this past Monday talked about running an ethically conscious private practice. The person that was in came to see us in September talked about the decolonization of therapy and what that looks like. And then with the Culture Collective, we also offer a dinner and dialogue, which is entirely student-led. Faculty do not attend those. And it's really just a way to process some of what you learned, reflected on in that Culture Collective guest speaker workshop, the way you interact with that, right? Like how it bumps up to how you know yourself to be in your identities. And then the mentoring program, which Eric is a part of and has been a mentor and heads up our mentoring program now on the student side, is really where we pair first semester students with someone who's a student who's been in the program longer. And they are able to work together that semester, or they can stay together longer term. I know of a mentoring pair, a mentor and a mentee, who I have actually presented with now twice at 2 different conferences, because they got together and found out that they have this really incredible sort of niche interest in terms of counseling, which is working with folks who are navigating perimenopause and what counselors should know about supporting that. And there's not much out there around that. So they got together and found this thing, and it was a really wonderful product for them to kind of have some scholarly work on. So we have a really wonderful and robust community outside of the classes that are being led and rejuvenated by the students, not us as faculty.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Thank you. I'm really interested to hear more about the first part, though, about like the psychological profile of those people who like horror movies. That sounds really cool.
Yeah.
I almost want to do just a whole session
That'd
on
be
that.
maybe we should have a class. What do you think?
I know, yeah.
Dr. L, is that a new certificate?
Can I audit the class or something, maybe? In fact, this is a really good question, and I see Dr. Paitel's already typing, but this might be a good one to bring out to the group. Can you speak to the course load and the workload, and how people with young kids or busy lives or a career may be able to successfully complete the program and still enjoy their lives while they do it? So interested to hear from anybody. Eric, your input here might be helpful though as well.
So Thomas, you cut out right there. Could you ask me the question?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry about that. So for students who maybe they're working full time, they have a family, they have other life responsibilities, what is the work life school balance like? Maybe what has that been for you, or from our faculty present? What is your experience been like supporting and advising and working with students who may be in this situation, which frankly is probably going to be a majority of our students?
Yeah, so I worked full time throughout like school while I was taking class part time, and I mean there's a good amount of reading. I forget what the exact hour is like in the syllabi that says like what you're expected to do. I'm sure one of the professors could chime in with that, but yeah, it comes down to for me at least, making the time for this. I mean, if you're in the program, you will get what you need to be a good counselor. I can tell you that much. But you do the readings, the assignments are spaced out in a way that's very doable. So just give yourself the time on top of work, which is difficult. But I found that kind of just riding the wave from work to just finishing out, and like on Monday would be like my reading day. That's how I would do it, because then there might be assignments to do throughout the week, and I broke it up like that. And then Tuesday or Wednesday, I usually had my discussion board posts due. I still might have one next week due, but we're almost to the goal, to the end with that. But yeah, it was all very manageable on top. I mean, it's a pretty good, it's a pretty fairly paced program. Like there's reading for some people, it can be more challenging, but the textbooks aren't so dense that I found too much trouble with it. I mean, the good thing is we start off getting like a survey of theory. So when you get to more challenging topics later, you're prepared for it. So every step prepares you for the next one. So if you keep making time for the program, it really gives you back what you put into it. But in terms of managing it, there's also a lot of people in the program with children, caretakers in the program. So this kind of goes back to what Mackenzie said, like you can create like support groups and find ways that work for you and find out what works for other people. And there's a lot of opportunities for that as well. But lot of people have day jobs here and, you know, find ways to make it work and find like compassion, empathy with their cohort.
Can I just add something to that, Eric? What you just said for those who are considering it, you know, as faculty, we all have other things too, right? We have kids, we have stuff. And one of the things that we always try to put out there for students is, you know, reach out and let us know what's going on. We as faculty can't help you if we don't know what's going on. So communication is definitely important. And we know that, you know, we know that stuff happens and we're able to provide grace sometimes, you know, within appropriate places, but we can't provide that grace if we don't know what's happening. So communication is definitely important. And we do strive to have that balance. We are about self-care. We talk about it so much that students get sick of it after a while. So we definitely all try to embody that as well as faculty, that we need to have balance, you know, that checks and balances of not overworking and having time for whatever the other stuff that's important in your life.
And there was thank you for that. There was another question that was asked previously. What's the relationship and the support like between the graduate faculty and current students? You know, as an undergraduate, it's, you know, probably what most people are used to. They have, you know, you probably already have an undergrad degree. As a graduate program faculty, oftentimes it's more of like a colleague type relationship. Can anyone speak to what that dynamic is like or have any examples?
I could speak to it a little bit where it's just, you know, when I had undergraduate professors, I think that there was more of a level of like, I'm not sure what the term I'm using for, but like hierarchy, that's more apparent. Maybe there's the word I was looking for. You know, I could say that, you know, I presented with Dr. Pytel at a conference, and that was fun and interesting to work with. And it's not like I felt when I was presenting like that kind of sense of hierarchy. Obviously, still respect your professors, but it was like working with, you know, another, like a supervisor in a professional sense. And I think that the relationships like that, you know, when we talk about what Dr. Lucero is saying about like communication, the best thing you can do in this program is be open with your professors if something's coming up. And if you have concerns, I said it before, but I've never been turned down if it was like, hey, can I get extra 5 minutes after class to just discuss this assignment or something, or hey, you're interested in things I'm interested in, I need help with practicum ideas. Like that's always there. So I think there's a level of just like communication that goes both ways. That's really helpful, from the professors to the students, and like a willingness that feels akin to like being in the professional sphere more so than being like a student professor.
No, thank you, Eric. That's great perspective. And we're from our faculty. I mean, everyone has bachelor's degrees and master's degrees and doctor degree, all the degrees really. Any feedback for what your experience is like going through graduate school, and even some of you are graduates from this program?
Yeah, I mean, I think that as we've tried hopefully well to communicate today is that, you know, I think we as faculty all want that for students. You know, some, like Eric said, some we kind of say, hey, do this, right? On others, they're coming to us and saying, hey, I really like to work on an article with you about this because you said your interest was this. Or I just put, you know, you have a good relationship with them interpersonally and they want you to help, you know, they're like, I had a student like that, like an advisee, like, she wasn't a very good writer, but she wanted to try to write an article. And so she's like, I feel safe with you. Can you help me work through this process of, doing that? I mean, we never got anything published, but it was a really great learning experience for her because she was wanting to go on for counselor, for a PhD in counselor ed and supervision. And so I think we all try to create those relationships with students. I can speak for myself. I didn't have that, and I went to a brick and mortar grad school. It was kind of like I went and had class and left and never interacted with anybody unless I had to. So I definitely try to create the opposite of that, with the students that not only I advise, but, in my class or whatever, like Eric said, where everybody's logging off and I'm staying on, making sure that nobody needs me for the, after class because they don't want to ask or whatever. And I think I can speak for all faculty in the program that we all do that in our own ways. And then of course, as co-advisors or co-faculty for some of those programs that Dr. Tomlin talked about.
We've got a lot of great questions tonight. And I know Dr. Pytel has been triaging these in the Q&A. Thank you for that. We are coming up on an hour and 15 minutes. I think I started off saying we might run 30 or 40 minutes. So I think we're a little over there, but honestly, it was a great audience, great questions. Really appreciate everybody's time. If you do have any questions, or if there's anything we can do to help, please do not hesitate to contact us. We are certainly more than happy to help. We work for you, and certainly happy to do that. Before we sign off real quick, is there any parting advice from our panel members today? Anything that you would recommend to a prospective student who may be considering the program? We can start with Dr. Romero-Lucero.
I would say that just as in anything else, if you do get accepted into this program, you get out what you put in. And if you don't know how to be that way, latch on to one person, whether it's another student or a faculty, and start, opening your doors to other people. Believe it or not, when I was a grad student, I was very shy. And that's why I said I walked in, I went and did my stuff, and I walked out, and I wish that I would have had somebody that I could have latched on to have developed those opportunities for myself sooner as a student.
Great, thank you. Dr. Tomlin.
If I had to think of one thing that has been the most helpful in my own life, so I'm going to personalize this, but I would say that thing is humility. And I think about that when it comes to our profession, our students, our work. And so that means that in this program, you will receive a lot of feedback from your peers and from your faculty. And some of that feedback is difficult to take. It's hard to sit with. And it's parallel to some of the things we hear with clients being really hard to sit with, and taking that in and reflecting on it and asking ourselves questions about it with curiosity rather than defensiveness or judgment. And so I would say to think about that for yourself and what humility looks like, feels like, and how much you can kind of lean into that for yourself.
Thank you. Eric.
Yeah, I would say like let your passion motivate you. I came into this program, I do not have a counseling undergraduate degree or degree before this, but there's a lot of carryover, so many things into this. It's about, finding patterns, caring about other people. If you have a passion for this, that can get you so far. And you're capable if you apply. This program sets you up. So the faculty are going to give you like a head start in the syllabi, and you might see like, okay, they're saying everything's far out, I don't have to do it yet. Take that opportunity to get ahead. When it's practicum, I think it's something that everyone gets a little scared of because it's like, how will I find a site? But when you start the program, just start putting feelers out, like what might I want to work in, and reach out to people like, hey, I'd like to introduce myself because I'm interested in what your site does. You're setting yourself up for success. So the best thing you can do is just stay passionate about it and let that motivate you to be like, hey, you know, I want to see where I want to go. And then when you're in skills class and it's scary because you've never counseled or provided counseling before, it's like, you know, I'm passionate about this, so I'll do my best and I'll get constructive criticism and I'll grow from that. So that would be my advice. Just keep yourself open and stay motivated and try to, you know, just don't want to be putting stuff off, because you can do it and you can set yourself up for success in the future.
No time like the present. Dr. DePalmer.
Challenging to think of one thing, but what I would offer is that counseling programs are transformative. It's not just a professional shift, it's a personal one. And I remember going to my program, I don't even know how I used to think, because it's a way of being. And so when Dr. Tomlin talked about humility, it is, we know what we're doing, and we're going to walk you through that development. And it's humanizing and life-giving and transcends. It's just a rewarding profession. And so be clear on what your why is, because it is difficult. You do have to make sacrifices, but keep pivoting back to why. And there are a lot of gifts waiting for you.
Good advice. Thank you. And Dr. Katanga.
Thank you. Now, one thing that well, there are so many things I would like to talk about, but one thing that keeps me going since 2016 in the program is the sense of community. It's like a family. Now, when you come in as a cohort, you stay in that cohort for 2-3 years together. And then at some point we have to say goodbye, and at that moment we have two feelings. We are excited that you have completed the program, but we are also sad that you are leaving. So when you come in at the very first class, we help you to develop a sense of connectedness and networking with peers, because counseling profession is not easy. We alert you right at the beginning that you will hear things about human beings that you never knew about. And it's always good to have people that you can talk to, people that understand you as a counselor. And those relationships formed at the beginning of the program are maintained, you know, like Eric said, are maintained all along through the program and even after you graduate. So make the move. We shall work with you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Katanga. And thank you everybody for joining us tonight. Again, appreciate your time. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. More than happy to help. Thanks everybody. Have a great night.
Night, everyone.